Hello and a very warm welcome to Dumfries in southern Scotland. I've driven through Dumfries quite a few times, but I've never actually really stopped to look around the town, so I thought on this rather blustery grey day I'd come and have a little wander around Dumfries, have a little look at the town. It is of course probably most famous for its connections to the Scottish poet Robbie Burns. In fact, Robbie Burns, I think, was buried originally in this graveyard. I'm not sure where he's buried now. He's buried in a mausoleum somewhere. I'm not sure if it's here, where I am now. I think this is St Michael's churchyard, or if he's buried somewhere else. But yeah, just thought I'd have a little wander around Dumfries and see what the town is like. So I must admit, this is a pretty impressive churchyard. The size of these graves, these monuments, is really impressive, sort of 10-12 feet high, even taller, some of them. And some of the graves, you got blue plaques, and these apparently are Robert Burns' contemporaries. So it tells you who the contemporaries of Robert Burns were. There's another one here. George Hoff, I think that's how you pronounce it. And here we have the mausoleum. And this, I think, is where Robert Burns is buried. So Robert Burns is considered Scotland's national poet, and he died in 1796 at the age of only 37. And as I said, he's laid to rest in this rather impressive mausoleum behind me. On the 25th of January each year, which is the birthday of Robbie Burns, they celebrate Burns Night. It's an important event here in Scotland, but it's also observed all around the world as well, when people pipe in the haggis and remember Robbie Burns and his poetry. Just across the road from the church we have this statue to the wife of Robert Burns. So that's the church where Robbie Burns is buried. This is Burns Street, and if I just wander down here, you've got Burns's house where he lived, and it is now a museum which is free to enter. So I'll just wander down here. Now I have to confess, I don't really know much about Robbie Burns, apart from the fact that he was a poet and died here in Dumfries. So maybe I should pop into this museum, have a little look around it briefly. But there's a plaque on the wall, Burns House. Robert Burns and his family moved to this house in 1793 from the Wee Vennel, now Bank Street, and here he continued to write his songs, and he died here on the 21st of July 1796. This little space in here used to be Robbie Burns' study, where apparently he wrote a few of his most famous poems or songs, but he actually only lived in this house for 3 years before his death, although the family stayed in this house for at least another 40 years. And here we have a portrait of his wife, and over here a portrait of the man himself. So it's a small little museum, only 4 rooms, but it's free to enter. And I was just reading in there that the day Robbie Burns died, his wife gave birth to their 9th child. So can you imagine that? She gave birth to their 9th child, and her husband died, leaving her a widow at the age of only 31. And she continued to live in that house with the other members of the family. As I say, for 40 years, or members of the family lived in that house for 40 years. Now, as you can see, it's raining, and this is the start of Storm Amy. It's the first storm of the winter, or the autumn, I suppose would be more accurate. So we're predicting very, very heavy rain later this afternoon and some quite strong winds. I was hoping that the rain would hold off for a couple of hours, but unfortunately it's arrived. But we'll continue to have a little wander around Dumfries. Might not be seeing it quite at its best, unfortunately. So here we have the suspension bridge, rather attractive bridge over the River Nith, and as you can see, the river is already very full, and this is before Storm Amy, I think that's what it's called, hits us in full force. So I wouldn't be surprised if this river soon bursts its banks. In fact, there's a car park over there on the right which I was going to park in, and it's actually closed, and I wonder if that's because of the risk of flooding. Now I can imagine that on a nice sunny day this would be a lovely spot to sit and have a picnic. Not today though. So just next to the river we have the Robert Burns Centre, and again apparently it's free entry. So I was just reminded in that little museum that probably the most famous song Robert Burns wrote is one that many people around the world will know, certainly the English-speaking world, because he wrote Auld Lang Syne, which we sing at New Year's Eve. So that's his most famous song. So even if you don't know much about Robert Burns, you know at least one of the songs or poems that he wrote. So it's always fun to visit somewhere new because you learn something new. And one of the things I just discovered is that this rather lovely stone bridge in front of me is the oldest multi-span stone bridge in Scotland. So you can see from the street that it's quite nice architecture, but obviously this street has seen better days, looking a little bit run down, which is a great pity. Obviously the weather today doesn't help either. So the centre of Dumfries is quite pleasant, even if some of the buildings are slightly run down. And that building over there, it's got a sign telling you how far it is to various different locations. So it's 16 miles to Annan, 33 to Carlisle, London 330, Edinburgh 72 and Glasgow 74, I think. Again, really lovely building, but in a very dilapidated state, unfortunately, all boarded up. It's getting very wet now, so I just thought I'd wander down to Dumfries station, have a look at it. It's rather an attractive building. They could do with cleaning the canopy. Slightly reminds me of Ulverston station with its dirty canopy. So here we have the route map. So Dumfries here, and then Carlisle down there, and then up to Glasgow Central, and you can also get there to Stranraer, although it doesn't look like a particularly direct route. So that's the station hotel, which is now a Best Western hotel. And there we have the station. It's quite a nice little station, not particularly busy.